Yo, Atlas speaking, and welcome to the Atlas Fanfic channel. Today I'm here with what if I was reborn in Naruto and became the sage of Six Paths Successor. Like the video and subscribe to let me know if you want a second part. Anyways, let the tale begin. Chapter 1, Enter the Oracle. Ugh, Cole said as he opened his eyes and noticed he was in a dark room. What hit me? That would be a bus, my young friend, came a voice from behind him. Cole turned to see an elderly man floating in the air, cross-legged with 6 black orbs under him. Cole just looked at him, making a startlingly good impression of a fish. I must have been hit harder than I thought, he thought as he looked at the old man. Because I'm either dreaming or I'm looking at the Rikudo Sennin from Naruto. His thoughts trailed off as the man began to speak again. You must be thinking you have gone crazy. Well, young one, you haven't. This is all real, and yes, I am the Rikudo Sennin, the old sage said. I have brought you to this dimension for an important Ms. Dash. Hold up, Cole interrupted. You mean to tell me that I am actually talking to a manga character, and what was that about me being hit by a bus? He asked. Ah, yes, the sage began. You were in fact hit by what you call a bus, and died. He said matter-of-factly. Ukkakai. Cole said as he began to sweat a little. So I'm dead? Not quite, the sage said. I made a deal with the god of death that if my sons Indra and Ashura could not find peace after 3 generations of reincarnation, would gain a warrior from any world, give him the mission of being the one to bring peace to the world, he said in a calm and easy tone. But that doesn't explain how you are real. Cole retorted. Your world is one of the god of death's creation to bring a suited warrior for the deal. He had this world's existence made known by way of fiction. But he inadvertently made changes to this world by doing so. Now everything that you know of this world is actually future knowledge, the sage said. Okay. I don't understand. Cole said blankly at the sage's way of explanation. I understand the part where you said the god of death made my world for the deal, but what's this about future knowledge? I mean that what you know from the story you read in your world has yet to happen. Naruto has yet to be born into the world. And so, you have knowledge of this world's future and can help move it towards peace, the sage explained. Oh, so by reading Naruto, I was given some sort of future knowledge of a world other than mine? Cole said. Precisely, responded the sage. Cole just stared at him. This is a lot to take in, he said under his breath. My whole life, a lie, high school, my friends, my plans for the future, all a part of some deal, he whispered to himself as he fell to his knees. I am sorry, but it is the truth. You were chosen to guide this world to peace, but that doesn't mean what has happened to you is right, and for that I am truly sorry, the sage said as he bowed his head with a regretful look in his eyes. Cole looked up at him for a few seconds before seeing that what he said was true. So, what no? The sage looked back to him and said, Now, I prepare you for the mission you have been assigned. And that is? Cole asked. The sage floated to him and held out his hands, palms up. Place your hands upon mine, and I warn you, this may hurt a bit, he said. Cole did so and instantly felt a burning pain going through his whole body. When he tried to retract his hands from the sage gripped his hands with a strength that made it so he couldn't get away. You mustn't remove your hands until I am finished. A few seconds later the sage released his grip and Cole fell to his knees panting and sweating. What did you do? He asked between breaths. I opened all of your Tenketsu points at once and allowed your chakra to flow freely through your body for the first time. Also, look at your hands. You will notice something familiar on them, the sage replied. Cole looked down to his hands and noticed a circle symbol on his right palm and a moon on his left. You gave me your chakra? He asked. Yes, on top of unleashing your hidden chakra, I supplied you with my own, which you can access whenever you choose to do so, the sage replied with his eyes closed. Now you are ready for your task. Wait! Cole said. What is my task? What am I supposed to do with your power? That is up for you to decide, but for now, you will need to wake up, the sage replied. just before Cole passed out. When Cole woke up, he was in the middle of the forest. It was dark out, but the light from the moon was able to light up the clearing he was in. He looked around and noticed a small pond next to him. There was also a rock with a change of clothes on it. He figured that walking around in his normal street clothes would look a little strange in this world, so he ditched his clothes and changed into the new ones, which fit surprisingly well. When he finished changing, he was wearing a black skin-tight bodysuit, a short gray kimono, black ninja pants that tightened and became skin-tight at the knees. He was also wearing black boots that had a gray shin and foot guard. He was also wearing black fingerless gloves with a gray hand and forearm guard. When he looked into the pond, the new clothes weren't the only changes. His normally straight shoulder-length brown hair was stark white and longer, going past his shoulders. He also noticed while changing his clothes that he no longer had any fat on his body. He could never have been considered fat, or even chubby for that matter. He had always prized good health and liked to work out. But he still had some fat due to the fact he ate a little too much fast food and had chubby cheeks. But now all of the excess fat he had was gone, leaving finely toned muscle. Wow, I was never this fit, was the only thing he could think on the subject. But what surprised him most was the fact that his hazel green eyes had gone through a major change. That change had been the Rinnegan. Holy shit, was the first thing he said when he noticed the new set of eyes he had. Okay, looks like that's the reason he had his eyes closed after he gave me the chakra, he said to himself. He looked back to the rock that had the clothes, and there was a mask sitting there. Must be to hide my eyes, he said to himself. The mask had one slit across where the eyes were, and was plain white. Other than the two horns on it, it was rather plain. As he put it on, he thought to himself, okay, so, if I have the Rakutu Sennin's chakra, then I should also have. His thoughts trailed off as he concentrated. After a brief second, 6 black orbs formed around him. Sweet, he said to himself in the mirth of knowing he could use the truth-seeking balls. He then let all but one of them disperse while the one became a staff. Alright, guess I gotta find my way to Konoha now, don't I? He said aloud and walked off into the forest. After walking for about 2 hours, he came out of the forest. Cole wondered. I guess I should actually see what I can do before I try to do anything important, he said to himself. On his walk, he tried to focus his chakra and noticed he had surprisingly good control over it, so good he could do the tree walking exercise without any trouble. He focused some chakra into his legs and set off in a full sprint, startling himself with how fast he was. In about 1 second, he was 50 yards from the entrance of the forest. Okay, that's awesome, he yelled. He then walked to a lone tree and focused chakra into his fist and punched it as hard as he could, completely splitting the tree and causing it to burst into splinters. This is awesome, he exclaimed. He decided to test the rest of what he could do once he knew the limit of his chakra reserves. He figured they were extremely small due to the fact that he had never used chakra before. So he continued to walk in the direction he was headed. Once the moon was in the middle of the sky, he decided to rest for the night in a tree. When he woke up, he got down and continued to walk as the sun rose in the distance. After a few hours of walking, he found a trail and a group of what he thought merchants. They were kind enough to give him some food. So where are you headed? The leader of the group asked. I'm on my way to Konoha, but it seems I've lost my way. Could you be so kind as to point me in the right direction? Cole asked in a deeper tone than his normal voice to disguise his voice. Well, I don't know if you want to be going to Konoha right now. Rumor has it that a demon came down and wrecked the place last night, the merchant replied. What? Cole replied. He cleared his throat and said, sorry about that, but I have family in Konoha. Is it true a demon attacked? He asked. And rumor also has it that the Yondaime died defeating the beast, the merchant replied. Cole thought for a moment. Damn it, I was too late. I wanted to see if I could keep Minato from dying, but looks like some things I am not going to be able to change. Could you please point me in the right direction? I need to see if my family lived through the attack, he asked in a hurried voice. Sure, if you go that way for about 3 hours you'll be at the front gate, the merchant pointed. Before he could blink, Cole was already headed in the direction pointed out for him as fast as he could go. About 30 minutes later he could see the ruined gates to Konoha. Deciding to enter the village without being seen to keep from being questioned during a seemingly chaotic time, he made his way to the top of the Hokage monument. Okay, I'm gonna need a place to hide out for the time being, he thought to himself. Then a thought came to him. He formed one of the truth-seeking balls and said, "Take me the way to the Nameke's estate." The ball then began to move and he smiled and followed. A few minutes later he was at the gate of the estate. He looked at the gate and decided to do things safely and check for traps on the gate. Minato, being the Fuinjutsu master he was, in fact had some seals on the gate. But with one touch from Cole activating the Preta path of the Rinnegan, he deactivated the seal and slipped in through the gate. Once he was inside the house, he decided to check the kitchen for food and made himself some dinner. He was a little offset in the fact he was using the food of a dead man for himself, but got over it. He sat on the couch and thought to himself, well, I guess this is where the hard part begins. Chapter 2, Passing Time. Cole sat down on the couch and thought to himself, well, I guess this is where the hard part starts. Cole decided to sleep on the couch that night, not feeling comfortable sleeping in one of Minato and Kushina's rooms. The next morning Cole decided to have a look around the estate to see if there was anything he could use to learn how to perform jutsu and practice chakra control. He happened to stumble across a hidden room that held a massive amount of jutsu scrolls and other texts. Jackpot, he said to himself. Cole sat down and reached for one of the scrolls, but then a thought came to him, wait, I can't read Japanese. He instantly opened the scroll he reached for and took a look at it. After a brief second he let out a sigh of relief. Must be the Rinnegan, he said, due to the fact that he could read and understand exactly what was written. The scroll he happened to be reading was one for the Doton, Dochu Igyo no Jutsu, Earth Release, Underground Projection Fish. He decided he would learn this first due to the fact that it would let him get around the village without being seen. But first he needed to get a better picture on how much chakra he had and how good of control he had over it. He looked through a few more scrolls and found some that had some chakra control exercises in them. He decided to take them and the scroll for Dochu Igyo and put them in a bag. Once he had them in a bag he went back into the living room, making sure everything was back in the same place he found it. He never knew when someone would come by to the estate to try and sell it or take its contents. He then went out one of the back doors to evade any unwanted attention and made his way out of the village. Once he left the village he went back to a clearing in the woods he found on the way there. He set the bag down and pulled out one of the chakra control exercises out. Well, might as well start figuring out where I stand, he whispered to himself. The scroll said to focus chakra onto a leaf and make it stick to your skin. Cole picked up a leaf and tried to do so. After a few tries he got that part down and started adding leaves until his whole arm was covered in leaves. The next step was to move the leaves to other parts of the body, only using chakra to move them. After successfully moving every leaf to his other arm he decided to keep adding leaves while moving others at the same time. This proved to be much harder. Doing both parts at the same time was a little mentally draining, but he soon got it down. It was around noon when he decided to try a different exercise. But before he pulled one out he had a thought of an exercise he could try. He picked up a single leaf and used some chakra to balance it on his index finger. He then focused some chakra between his finger and the leaf, causing it to rise. Once the leaf got about 2 feet above his hand he started to make the leaf spin. This process was much harder than the leaf camouflage exercise due to the fact that he had to keep the leaf suspended in the air while spinning it. After a few minutes Cole doubled over, taking deep breaths and letting the leaf fall. Looks like a few minutes is my max with that exercise, he said to himself. He then had a break and ate some of the food he had brought with him. After an hour he decided to get back to the new exercise he made. By the end of the day he could successfully spin the leaf while it was 6 meters in the air for about an hour. He decided to spend that night in the woods and enjoy the nice weather of the night. The next day he decided to start on learning the Dochu Igyo. On his first try he was able to phase into the ground at about waist depth before he had to come back out. He kept at this for another 2 days until he was able to successfully stay submerged for a long period of time. After mastering the Docho Igyo, he made his way back into Konoha using the technique and surfacing in the middle of the Ninke's estate. About 2 months passed without incident. Within that time, Cole was able to master the Docho Igyo as well as the Henge and Kawarimi techniques. He was also in the middle of learning the water walking technique along with Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu, fire release, great fireball technique. However, when leading the village to continue training and testing his abilities, he was followed. During the 2 months following the attack from the Kyuubi, the defensive seals around the village that let them know if someone was entering or leaving the village were damaged. But now that they were back in action, the censors noticed Cole leading the village and 2 Umbu were sent to investigate. Once Cole reached the clearing he usually trained in, he was met with 2 figures were masks. One being a bird and the other a cat. "We have some questions for you," the one in the bird mask said. The only thing going through Cole's mind, however, was just a single word. Shit, 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 shit. Chapter 3, First Encounters and a New Hideout. Chapter 3, First Encounters and a New Hideout. Last time on Dragon Ball, sorry. Shit, 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 shy. Cole looked at the 2 Umbu in front of him. "I'm gonna have to be creative to get out of this one," he thought to himself while he sized up the 2 elites in front of him. He was definitely taller than both of them, with him being about 6 feet 2 inches. But he also knew they were both way more experienced than him in using ninjutsu and fighting in general. "What are you doing trespassing in Konoha, and what are you up to?" asked the Umbu wearing the bird mask. Cole took a second to come up with a reason that might buy him a few more seconds. "You see, I was lost on the road to life and found myself in this village, then I happened to cross paths with a black cat and I am currently trying to find a way around." He was cut off from his obvious lie when Bird decided to attack him. Bird came at him with a kunai in each hand, making a crossing slash to try and cut Cole's throat. But Cole was able to duck in time. With some rather fast reflexes and flexibility he never knew he had, he bent at a near 90-degree angle backwards. In mid-movement he snapped his fingers to form a truth-seeking ball and had it strike the Umbu in the knee. While the Umbu was off balance, Cole balanced on both hands and delivered a powerful kick with both legs to Bird. Bird went flying into a tree and was immediately knocked out. Cat watched in utter disbelief as her superior officer was easily defeated. She turned to her enemy and launched a few shuriken at him before preforming a few hand signs. Cole batted away the deadly projectiles with a truth-seeking ball he turned into a short staff before noticing that Cat was about to launch a fireball right at him. But before the fireball was able to hit, he sunk into the ground using Docho Igyo. He could have easily used the Preta path to absorb the jutsu, but decided to keep some of his techniques hidden. He emerged from the ground behind Cat and took a swing at the back of her head only to miss and take a powerful kick to the stomach. Cole was thrown back a few feet but stayed on his feet. He barely had enough time to avoid Cat's follow-up attack with a kunai, but was able to dodge and get some distance. "If you come quietly now, Hokage-sama will be merciful," Cat said in hopes of ending this seemingly long-lasting fight before it got any further. Cole weighed his options for a moment but replied, "Sorry, I'm not ready to reveal myself to your Hokage at the moment." With that, Cole reached out a hand towards Cat and yelled, "Bansho Tenin." With that, Cat was pulled forcefully towards Cole and he delivered a chakra-enhanced palm strike to her stomach. Cat was sent skidding across the ground. When she stopped, she painfully got up, panting from the force of the blow. "You're stronger than you look," she said. "What, do I look weak?" Cole asked sarcastically. "How about you pick up your friend over there and be on your way? I don't want to have to hurt either of you any more than I have already." "Not a chance," Cat replied as she lunged back to Cole, kunai in both hands. Cole just sighed and made his short staff into a 6-foot-long bow staff. However, before Cat made it to Cole, she quickly sidestepped and threw a kunai at him, causing him to dodge and lose his footing. With the brief disturbance to his defense, Cat lunged with the other kunai, aiming for his neck. However, before Cat got within an inch of his neck, Cole formed a second truth-seeking ball and had it strike her in the gut, stopping all of her forward momentum. Kat fell to her knees coughing and holding her stomach. "Man, what's you guys always going for the neck?" Cole mumbled to himself. He proceeded to deliver a chop to the back of Kat's neck, knocking her out. "Huh, that actually worked." Cole said in disbelief that he was able to perform a KO neck chop on his first try. He took Bird's supply pouch and kunai holster, thinking he might need the weapons in the future, and proceeded to flee the scene. He went back to the Nameke's estate to pick up a few more jutsu and kata scrolls and made a hasty retreat out of the village. So where do I go now? Cole thought to himself, trying to figure out where he should go to now that he couldn't hide within Konoha without having the Umbu on his trail. But then he had a thought. It's dangerous, but it'll have to work, he said to himself as he made his way to his new potential hideout. It took him an hour to find, but he finally made it to the gate of the fence that led to a certain forest Cole knew that hardly anyone would enter without reason. Cole jumped the fence and made his way into the forest of death. About 3 hours into the forest he found a small cave next to a stream that had been inhabited by a giant bear. With one clean blow to the head with a truth-seeking ball, the bear died and Cole had shelter and food for days. 2 weeks pass. Cole has now mastered both the water-walking exercise and Gokakyu no Jutsu, still amazed at how much control he has over his own chakra. He continued to do the exercise he came up with, but he added more leaves to each finger while doing the leaf camouflage exercise at the same time. Over his time in the elemental nations, Cole came to notice that he also had an extreme amount of control over his Rinnegan. He tested his limits with it and noticed that, not only that he could use every one of the paths, they came like second nature to him. Easily making strategy that could utilize each path in junction to each other and use them to the utmost efficiency. The only path that gave him problems was the animal path. He figured that he didn't have any contracts or other means of summons yet, so he let that path be. The Ashura path also proved to be somewhat of a challenge to use, but once he figured out that he needed detailed knowledge of the machines he wanted to make, he slowly made progress to forming weapons out of his own body. He was even able to form chakra-receiving rods at will. While practicing some taijutsu katas from the scrolls he came to notice that he seriously lacked in the department of taijutsu skill. He had never really been a fight before his encounter with the Umbu and figured the only reason he got out of that fight unharmed and alive was either due to sheer luck or insane amounts of instinct. Cole figured it was the former reason and started to heavily train his physical limits and learn how to use various taijutsus to have more of an advantage against his opponents. Cole's day had been going well like the others in the past week. Not many animals of the forest dared come after him after he killed the giant bear. But his day was about to be turned around by a certain purple-haired kunoichi making her way through the forest. Anko was on the hunt. There had been a few rumors of a strange man in a mask wandering the village since the Kyuubi's attack. And those rumors were made truth when a couple of Umbu agents encountered said masked man and had their asses handed to them. 13-year-old Anko was determined to capture the man and raise her popularity by catching someone the Umbu couldn't. Maybe then the village would look at her differently. Not as the snake whore of the village, but as an actual shinobi of Konoha. Ever since Orochimaru betrayed the village a year ago, with Anko being his apprentice, she had been ridiculed by the citizens and many of the other shinobi. But today that would change. Today she would capture a potential enemy of the village and prove herself to be loyal to the village. It only took her an hour once she got into the forest she knew so well to find signs someone had been through the area. She followed the trail until she came to a stream going past a cave. She stopped at the edge of the trees and remained out of sight. She looked over the area until she found what she was looking for. And it wasn't quite what she expected. Cole at the time was practicing his taijutsu with a bow staff he made out of a truth-seeking ball on the stream. He began to work up a sweat, so he ditched the mask, kimono, and bodysuit, only wearing his pants, boots, and shin and forearm guards. He had learned how to change the weight of his truth-seeking balls, so he was using a staff that weighed about 50 pounds and was spinning it like it was almost nothing. For some reason, once he began to learn how to use certain taijutsu styles, he adapted and learned how to use them extremely fast. He had already mastered the basics of 2 other taijutsu katas before beginning with his bow staff. What Cole thought was sloppy first tries at a new taijutsu, Anko saw a clearly experienced staff user. Sure, a few of his moves looked a little off, but the speed and ferocity of his movements made his movements look more like a solo dance of death than practicing taijutsu. She also was able to see the weight and sheer force of the staff when it splashed a large amount of water into the air as the tip touched the surface. She also took into account the handler. He had the facial looks of someone only a few years older than herself. But he was physically larger than anyone she had ever met her own age. He was also completely cut. Not an ounce of unneeded fat on his body. Normally any other kunoichi would staving off a nosebleed, but Anko was on a mission for redemption. Even if she felt the blush on her face, she wouldn't let it distract her. She was broken from her trance when he came to sudden stop. Cole took a few deep breaths and headed back to where he had his gear sitting. He wiped himself down with some dry moss he had been using as a towel and put his clothes back on. When he was about to put his mask back on, he had the sudden thought to duck. When he did so, he noticed 3 shuriken fly over his head. Damn it, someone already found me, and I like this place too, Cole thought to himself as he put his mask back on. Come on out, hiding won't help you. Cole shouted into the unresponsive forest. Damn, can't they ever just listen and be civil? Just gotta go for the kill first, interrogate later route. Troublesome. Cole thought as he channeled his inner Nara. He stood and waited for his assailant to either show themselves or give away their position. Shit, he dodged, Anko thought to herself as she changed locations. She heard his warning and thought he was a complete idiot. Honestly, what ninja would just reveal their location right after catching their target by surprise, Anko thought in a very non-Uzumaki fashion. When she got to another vantage point, she set up a few exploding smoke seals set to go off in the next 30 seconds. Cole looked to his left and saw a burst of smoke. He went right in the smoke trap and fell victim to Anko's plan. Anko watched as the idiot went straight into the cloud of smoke and internally laughed. Sanaijishu. Hidden shadow snake hands, Anko shouted as 5 large snakes came out of her wrist and attacked their prey. Cole turned when he heard someone shout. He was instantly assaulted by 5 snakes. He was able to bat away 4 of them with his bow staff, but the 5th caught his arm in a vicious bite. Ah! Cole seethed as he ripped the snake from his arm and crushed its head with his staff. Fuck! Cole said as he fell to one knee, feeling the effects of the snake's poison. While fighting to stay conscious, he heard a feminine voice say, "You like that? It's a new poison I've been working on. Making it out of chakra, it works just like a Hyuga's attack to your chakra network. Too bad for you there is no antidote yet, so you'll be without chakra till I come up with one." The voice finished with a giggle. Cole thought the situation over for a brief moment and then thought, wait, made of chakra? Cole instantly activated the Preta path and instantly felt the poison's effects leave his system. Hee. What's the laugh for, huh? Anko asked her newest victim. It's just, you don't know what you're getting yourself into, Cole replied, still a little shaken by the momentary weakness. He proceeds to sink into the ground with Danchu Igio and disappeared from Anko's line of sight. What the hell? His chakra network was supposed to shut off completely. Anko panicked as her plan fell into shambles. She quickly dodged a swift kick that was aimed for her head and was forced out of her smoke-covered vantage point. Once she landed, she saw her target still coming at her. Sanaijishu. Anko shot a few more snakes at him and forced him to back away. Cole looked at his attacker for a moment before he recognized who she was. Oh, looks like I've been found by the snake mistress of Konoha. This got him an odd look from Anko and he raised an eyebrow. I am facing Mitarashi, Anko, correct? Yeah, but nobody calls me snake mistress. At least not anymore. They usually just call me traitor's bitch or snake whore. Anko said, mumbling the last part. She intended that last part about the names the villagers call her to be too quiet for her prey to hear, but Cole did happen to hear it. Ah, so the village has yet to see that you are your own person and a loyal Konoha nin, and not just another of Orochimaru's slaves. Cole said with actual concern in his voice. This made Anko look at him questionably. She couldn't understand what he was getting at. Why was he in the village? Why was he training in the forest of death? And why did he sound concerned for her? Who are you? She asked in pure curiosity. Cole thought for a brief moment and bent into a deep bow with one arm over his chest and one behind his back. I, Mitarashi-san, am the Oracle. And I know a great many things. Chapter 4, Child of Prophecy. I, Mitarashi-san, am the Oracle. And I know a great many things. Anko looked at him for a few seconds, not entirely sure of what to make of the fool she is facing. So, what does that mean? She asked. Cole looked back up to her, making eye contact with her for a few seconds before turning around and saying, "It means, I'm not into fighting for no reason, bye." Cole then channeled chakra into his feet and made a hasty retreat into the forest. It took a second for Anko to register what had just happened before she started chasing him, screaming, "Get your ass back here, motherfucker. Nobody just turns their back on me and runs in the middle of a fight." This, however, only made Cole run a bit fast as he was trying to escape the enraged Kunoichi. Shit, she's fast, Cole thought. Plus she knows the forest better than I do. I don't want to fight her, or have to resort to the Rinnegan. This is going to be troublesome. Anko sped after the so-called Oracle and was making ground until he suddenly turned right and she lost sight of him in the trees. "Shit," she yelled. She continued in the direction he was headed but didn't see him. She was about to keep going until she heard a twig snap behind he a few meters away. She turned and saw Cole hiding behind a bush. "Found you!" she yelled as she lunged for him. "Fuck!" Cole shouted as he was forced to Kawarimi with a dead branch to escape a Shinigami from Anko. Cole began to run again only to find himself back at the clearing they started in. "Well, fuck me sideways," Cole mumbled right as Anko appeared in front of him. "Do I really have to fight? I haven't done anything but defend myself since I was found. I would like to be left alone." "Too bad, the Hokage has put you on the list for capture. So unless you come quietly you will have to get your ass kicked by me. And even if you do come quietly, I might still kick your ass for making me chase you," Anko replied, clearly salty about the whole running away thing. "So why don't you take off the ugly mask of yours and fight me like a man, or I'll make you not a man," she said as she got out a kunai and licked the blade. Cole gulped and replied by sinking into the ground. Anko stared blankly at where he was before he tried to run again. "I swear God, if you're running AG-" she started until she was interrupted by a punch directed at the back of her head she barely dodged. "This is more like it," she said as she turned around. When she was expecting to see Oracle, she was surprised to not see anyone. Anko looked right, left and back. "He must be below me," she said as she jumped to the safety of a high branch of a tree. However, to her surprise, the attack didn't come from below, but when it came from above as Cole kicked her in the back. "Ugh!" Anko screamed as she took the heavy blow and fell from the tree, landing onto the ground. She looked up to not see anyone again. "What the fuck? Where are you? You said you wanted a fight," came a voice from above her. She looked up to see her target floating in the air, cross-legged with 6 black orbs floating under him. "What the fuck are you?" she yelled. "Someone who doesn't want to fight you or anyone else from Konoha if I don't have to," Cole responded coolly. He descended until he was a couple of feet off the ground and looking straight into Anko's eyes. He then said in a playful voice, "So we done here? Just who are you? I've never heard of a flying technique," Anko asked. "Like I told you, I am the Oracle. I have come to Konoha to help raise and lead the Child of Prophecy on the right path, so that one day the elemental nations will finally know peace," Cole responded in a quiet and calm tone. "I do not wish to harm anyone who will do good for the future of this world, and I will not harm Konoha on any way. You can take this information to your Hokage," Cole continued as he got to his feet and began to walk away. "Also," he said, "if the Hokage wants to see me, he can ask nicely himself." With that, Cole sunk back into the ground and left Anko in the forest. Anko just stood there for a moment, staring at where Oracle was before he disappeared. Did he sound sad when he said he didn't want to fight anyone? Did he say I was important for the future? Anko thought in disbelief. After a couple more seconds she decided to retreat from the forest and head to the Hokage Tower to report what had happened and what Oracle had said. /N, when Cole is not around he will be referred to as Oracle. As Anko made her way back through the village she couldn't help but notice the glares. The hushed insults. The people spitting in her direction. She couldn't stand it. She got more respect from the enemies than she did from her own village. She would have been even more bothered by it if she hadn't been thinking of a way to explain what happened to the Hokage. The only thing she got out of the encounter was that she found out where he is most likely hiding, his alias, some of his abilities, and that he claims to be in Konoha for peaceful reasons. She wouldn't say that he had shown concern for her. More so than most of the villagers did. And she would definitely not tell the Hokage that behind the clothes he was extremely well built to the point he might invade some of her more unwanted dreams. She quickly shook her head to forget those detailed and tried to think of other things. Tried being the key word. She couldn't help the slight blush as she remembered seeing him training. Before she knew it she was at the Hokage's door where his secretary looked up at her and gave a slight glare and asked in an all too unhappy tone, "What do you need?" "Do you being stressed?" Anko ignored the implied insult and said, "I have news about an intruder for Hokage-sama." The secretary looked at her for a moment and said, "All right, go on ahead, he has a meeting in 5 minutes so make it brief." Anko pushed open the door and was greeted by a warm smile from Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage. "Well, Anko-san, what do I owe the pleasure of seeing you for today? It isn't about the complaints I have been getting from some of the village councilors, is it?" the elderly Hokage asked. "No, Hokage-sama, but they have complained about me? I have done nothing wrong?" Anko responded, confused why the council would have reason to make a complaint about her. "Don't worry about it, I have already dealt with these claims and put them to rest," Hiruzen said. "Well, why have you come today? It is something of importance, I hope? Or have you come just to see this old man?" The Hokage laughed in good humor. "Actually, Hokage-sama, I have come to make a report on my finding of the intruder." "Oh," Hiruzen replied, suddenly serious. "Well, let's hear it." "Of course, Hokage-sama," Anko began. "As per your instruction you wanted all Chunin or higher nin not on duty to be on the lookout for an unknown male wearing a gray kimono and white horn mask. I was on the look for him. When I followed some tracks leading to Training Ground 44 I decided to follow. Once I reached the end of the tracks I found that he was based in a cave next to a stream about 15 miles into the forest." "Good work, Anko-san," Hiruzen said. "Did you engage in your target?" "Why yes, Hokage-sama," Anko began again, a little embarrassed that she didn't go for backup once she found him. "I engaged the target and had him until he showed that he was somehow resistant to my chakra-damaging poison. We continued in a chase of cat and mouse. When I had him cornered he displayed some interesting techniques and had me at his mercy." Anko paused and looked up to the Hokage to see his reactions, but she only saw a stoic face waiting for more details. And then he stopped, she continued. This caused the Hokage to raise an eyebrow, but he did not interrupt. He claimed that he didn't want to harm anyone he didn't have to, that he didn't want to hurt anyone in Konoha. He proceeded to tell me his alias, but not his actual name. He called himself the Oracle and that he was here for the Child of Prophecy. And with that he left, Hokage-sama. That is the end of my report. Hiruzen thought for a second about the news he had just heard. "You said he used an interesting technique?" "Yes, Hokage-sama, he was flying, sir, no. More like sitting in the air. He also had 6 black orbs that he could move without touching and could change the shape of them at will." Anko replied. "Well, did he happen to say anything else?" Hiruzen asked. "Only one thing, that if you wanted to see him, that you should ask nicely and in person." Anko finished. Well then. I guess I don't have any other choice," the Hokage said as he stood from his desk. "Come Anko, show me where you found him, the sooner we get this settled the better." "Yes, Hokage-sama." But what of your meeting? Anko asked. Why do you think I want to leave as soon as possible? Hiruzen replied with a slight laugh. Cole was sitting in front of his cave waiting for his visitors to arrive. While he waited, he tried something out with the truth-seeking balls. When he focused chakra into them and closed his eyes, he was able to see from them, like how Gaara does with his sand eye. Cole sat for a few more minutes before his visitors arrived. Ah, Mitarashi-san. A pleasure to see you again, and with Hokage-sama no less. It seems you would like to meet me now, Cole said as he stood to greet them. Yes, I got the message you didn't take kindly to the fact I sent others to bring you to me, Hiruzen replied in a serious tone. So, what did you wish to talk about, Oracle-san? Cole thought for a moment and said, I guess it's alright if Mitarashi-san hears this. Cole clears his throat before he continues. To answer the question of why I am here, it is exactly what I told Mitarashi-san. I am here to watch over the child of prophecy, and make sure he goes down the right path. And who is this child of prophecy, and what is the prophecy? Hiruzen asked. I won't say his name out loud, as to keep his identity secret to those who don't need to know. But, I will say his father and mother were two of the bravest and loving people of this world. They will be surely missed. Cole said, his head downcast and tone calm. But for the prophecy, he began again. What other prophecy is there, one that takes precedence over all others? That child will be a savior, and this world will love him. I am here to make sure that he is taught all that he is needed and assist him down the right path to peace. Naruto was the first name to come to Hiruzen. If what you say is true, why the mask? Why not come to me from the get-go? Why hide and run from my men? The Hokage asked in a serious tone. Because I was not ready for my presence to be known. I hoped to help the boy without anyone knowing I was here so that he wouldn't be treated as a savior, but as a person. And so I could look over the situation and spend the few years before I show myself to him preparing myself for the future to come. Cole replied. The future we are headed to is not one for the unprepared, it is not a pretty one. And how would you know what the future holds? The Hokage asked. Why, Hokage-sama, I am the Oracle. I bring prophecy and knowledge, I bring the keys to a fortunate future. I know the future because I am the Oracle, and I know a great many things. Cole replied doing his deep bow. One last question, Hiruzen said. You still haven't told me what's with the mask? Oh, if you wanted to see behind the mask all you needed to do was ask. Cole replied as he removed his mask. Anko didn't know what to think. Future seeing, prophecy, and then his face. It was pretty plain. Somewhat high cheekbones, a few freckles, a small scar on the bridge of his nose. But that's where the normality ended. His eyes were what was strange. They were a light purple with a small iris and a ripple pattern. She didn't know what to make of them until she heard Hiruzen take a sharp breath in and say, "T the Rinnegan." How very observant of you, Hokage-sama. Yes, I posse's the legendary Rinnegan, the eyes of the Rikudu Sannin himself. Cole replied. Hokage-sama, what is the Rinnegan? Anko asked. She had never seen Hiruzen react like this. He was wide-eyed and starting to sweat a little. He almost looked afraid. That, Anko-san, is the ultimate form of Jujutsu. Even greater than the Sharingan or Byakugan. The eyes of the Rikudu Sannin, an ancient shinobi who was thought to be the inventor of ninjutsu. He replied, exasperated and still staring at Oracle's eyes. We are very lucky to not have him an enemy, Anko-san, because if he was he would destroy this village before we knew what hit us. I trust you, Oracle-san. I will order my nin to stop the search for you and give an order for no one to disturb your endeavors, the Hokage said with a slight bow before he turned to leave. Anko was speechless. She had never seen Hiruzen act like this. He was genuinely afraid of this kid, someone she was able to push in battle. Hokage-sama. You can't serious. We're just going to let him do as he pleases? That is exactly what we will do, Anko-san, the Hokage snapped at her. Anko flinched, knowing better than to question her Hokage. But, if he so even attempts to step out of line, I will have the entire shinobi force of Konoha on his hide. Do you hear me, Oracle-san? Hiruzen demanded. Loud and clear, Hokage-sama, Cole replied. With that, Hiruzen left the forest and made his way to the Hokage Tower. When he got to the tower, the only thing on his mind was how much paperwork this whole ordeal would make he have to go through. Oh Kami, what have I done? He mumbled as he began to weep anime tears. Back in the forest, Anko continued to glare at Cole as he began to resume his training. You know, Mitarashi-san, if you keep looking at me like that, your face will get stuck like that, Cole said between tries at forming a new weapon with his creation of all things. So far the only thing he was able to form were his truth-seeking balls and chakra receiver rods. But now he was trying to make a blade out of the rods for a personal weapon he was trying to make. Anko! She mumbled in reply to Cole's comment. Excuse me, he said. Anko, call me Anko. I feel weird when people call me Mitarashi. She finished with a slight blush, but still keeping her glare up. Cole looked at her and laughed a bit. All right, should I call you Anko-san or Anko-chan? He finished with a mischievous grin that made Anko blush a little harder, but she kept her composure and went off on him. Don't call me either. Just Anko, she fumed. All right, whatever you say, Anko-chan. Cole replied with an even bigger grin and laughing a bit. She was about to lunge at him for the tease, but was stopped when he yelled, Oh, I think I got it. Got what? A brain, because I can help remove that, Anko said venomously. Just watch, Cole said before he began to concentrate on his hands. A small ripple in the air formed between his palms and something began to form. Anko was enthralled by the process. She was so intent at looking at it she was almost skewered by the blade that formed out of the air. Holy shit! What the hell? She yelled as she backed away. Ha! It worked! Cole exclaimed as he looked over the weapon he formed. It was a sword made of pure black metal. The handle was short and made for single-handed use. The blade, however, was a single-edged curved blade that was 3 feet long, 2 feet wide, and an inch thick. It looked like an oversized cleaver. Little heavy on the edge, but perfect for what I need it for, Cole said to himself as he gave it a couple test swings. Anko gaped at the boy she just saw make something out of nothing. WWW, how in the fuck did you do that? She asked frantically. Oh, Cole began as he looked back to Anko. It is a part of the power of the Rinnegan. The creation of all things, here watch. Cole said as he made a chakra receiver rod and a truth-seeking ball. Anko just continued to look at him before she got out of her stupor. She looked at him with stars in her eyes. What else can you do? Cole thought for a moment if it would be okay to show her his other abilities. He ended up showing off a little, liking the sudden admiration. He showed her the Deva path by using Bansho Tennin to bring a scroll to himself. He also showed the Ashura path by forming a chakra cannon out of one of his fingers. That is so cool! Anko exclaimed, watching his flesh change into metal and machine. I know, right, Cole said as he shot a blast of chakra at a rock, turning it to ruble. 2 months pass. Anko still comes by the cave just about every day she isn't on duty. She would bring Dango to share with Oracle and just hang around and give him pointers on certain jutsu. Cole enjoyed having Anko around. She was fun to tease and a big help with learning jutsu and alleviating boredom. With her around he learned the Katan, Karyo Enden, Fire Release, Fire Dragon Flame Bullet, in about a week, and proceeded to improve his skill with the Ashura path. He also gave a name to his cleaver. He called it the Teki no Hocho, Faux Cleaver. He was also learning how to use a few wind jutsu to combine with his fire types. He had Futon, Daitapa, Wind Release, Great Breakthrough, mastered in about a day, and was in the middle of learning Futon, Ringkuden, Wind Release, Drilling Air Bullet, when his day was interrupted by a new face. Or mask. The newcomer stood before Cole and said, Danzo-sama has requested a meeting, Oracle-san. Chapter 5, Darkness of Shinobi. The newcomer stood before Cole and said, "Danzo-sama has requested a meeting, Oracle-san." "Well shit," Cole said under his breath. "You can tell Danzo exactly what I told Hokage-sama. If he wants to see me, he'll have to come to me himself," Cole said as he placed his mask back over his face. Anko turned to the newcomer and looked at him with a critical eye. "I don't recognize you, you aren't Umbu." "You are correct, Mitarashi-san. I am one of Danzo-sama's root agents," the masked man replied. "And Oracle-san, Danzo-sama gave me specific orders to take you by force if I have to." "So will you come with me, or will I have to drag you back?" the agent asked. Cole decided to weigh his options. On one side, he could resist and report to the Hokage he had to kill an unknown nin in self-defense and push the blame of the attack on Danzo. Or he could go along with the root agent and take care of Danzo himself, but he didn't know if he would be able to defeat Danzo and his root agents at the same time. Even without Shirsui's eye, Danzo is a high-ranking veteran. Cole made his decision and said, "Hey Anko, wanna see something cool?" Before she could respond, Cole extended his head towards the agent and yelled, "Bansho Tennin." Anko was expecting the agent to fly towards Oracle, but instead a large rock came right at the false Umbu from behind and smashed into him. "Gah!" Cole's victim yelled before he fell forward and subsequently into Teki no Hocho. After cleaving his opponent in two, Cole looked at his handiwork. Under his mask he was a little green from his first kill and how brutal it was, but he wouldn't be able to dwell on that for long because right as he had made his move, 3 more root agents appeared and made their attack. One wearing a weasel mask threw a few shuriken at Cole, while one in a lizard mask drew a tanto and rushed him. The third one in a bear's mask just stood back and watched. "Shinra Tensei!" Cole exclaimed, knocking away the shuriken and turning his attention to his armed adversary. He blocked the initial thrust from Lizard and dodged the follow-up kick and gained some distance. "Anko!" he yelled forcefully. "Wait in the cave. I'll have this over in a few minutes." "What? No way am I just sitting back in this," she replied and shot a Sanaijutsu at Weasel. "Katon, Gokaki no Jutsu." Weasel blocked the snakes and charred them with a well-placed fireball. Said fireball continued on its way to Anko, who didn't have time to dodge. "Pretapath!" Cole shouted and absorbed the jutsu. "Listen, Anko! If you wait in the cave, I'll treat you to some dango. I can't go all out while defending you." Cole reasoned with her. "Fine, but if you live through this, I'm gonna hold you to that," she replied as she dashed for the cave. Weasel was about to follow her but was stopped when he had to dodge a /Teki no Hocho attached to a chain. Cole retrieved his blade and got into a kenjutsu stance that had his left hand and foot in front of him with his right leg slightly bent behind him and his right hand holding his blade horizontally above his head. "It's me you want, so come get some," he snarled at his opponents. The trio formed a triangle around their target so he couldn't escape. Lizard was the first to make a move using his tanto to make an upward slash at Cole, who blocked it with the flat of his cleaver. Cole followed up with a Shinra Tensei which sent Lizard flying backwards, but as he did so Bear shouted, "Suetun, Teppadama," water release, gunshot, and several powerful water projectiles came at Cole. Cole simply activated his Pretapath and absorbed the ninjutsu. "Is this all you elite root agents can do?" he asked in disappointment. "Fine, I'll just finish this quickly," said before he rocketed towards a still recovering Lizard. Only to be stalled by Weasel as he shot another fireball at him. He had to stop for a moment to absorb the jutsu. With the moment it took, Lizard got his distance and Bear came at him with S pair of tonfa. As Bear whirled the wooden weapons at his opponent, Cole blocked each hit with his sword. Cole used the sheer weight of his oversized cleaver to off-balance Bear and deliver a devastating chakra-enhanced kick to Bear's chest. As Bear flew past his comrades, Cole shouted, "Ashura Path, chakra pistol." With that, his index finger turned into a chakra cannon and fired a chakra blast at the still flying Bear. When the blast made contact with Bear, the poor agent was blown into pieces and scattered over the area. Cole nearly threw up from what he had done, but he couldn't slow down. He still had 2 enemies who were unfazed by the brutal death of their comrade. Lizard Sunshine towards Cole to close the distance and attack with his Tanto. Cole however saw this coming and blocked with Teki no Hocho. Haven't you learned you can't beat me with this level of Kenjutsu? He asked Lizard, whose only response was to keep attacking while Weasel formed another jutsu. Katon, Karyo Inden, Fire Release, Fire Dragon Flame Bullet. Weasel roared as he shot a dragon made of flame at Cole. Instead of absorbing the attack like the others, he used Kawarimi to switch out with a branch of a tree. Once that was engulfed in flame, Lizard was also taken by friendly fire. Anko, who had been waiting in the cave, had heard the screams, and she took a look out of the cave to see the entrails of one all over the ground while a second enemy burned to death slowly. She only saw a single enemy left and thought to herself that she was lucky to be such good friends with Oracle, or that could have very well been her. So, you gonna back down, or am I gonna have to end your existence too? Cole asked Weasel as he leveled his cleaver towards him. Weasel's response was to throw down a few smoke bombs to give himself cover. This, however, was the wrong choice. Cole simply spotted his chakra signature and reacted out his hand, Bansho Tennin. Weasel was wrenched out of the smoke and impaled by a chakra receiving rod. Sorry, was the last word Weasel heard as he died. Once his adrenaline died down, Cole calmly walked over to the stream and removed his mask. After he did so, he proceeded to lose his stomach contents into the poor unsuspecting river. When he finished, Anko made her way over to him and asked, was that your dash? First kill? Yeah, it was. Cole interrupted her and began to shake slightly. Oh, well. Anko didn't know what to say at this point. She wasn't really any good at soothing people. She was more on the side of making people feel the exact opposite feeling. Why, you get used to it, you know, she continued. Over time you learn to just shut it all out, stop being human for moments of time. It's how we shinobi do what we do, you know. But a lot of us have to find ways of coping. I eat dango when I feel bad or I'm stressed, but hey, that's me, she said. Cole looked up to her and grinned shakily. Thanks, Anko-chan. Why don't we go report this to Hokage-sama, and then I might just follow up on my promise. Hell yeah, free dango! She happily yelled. They began to make their way through the village. It was Cole's first time actually walking through the village without trying to sneak around. He liked what he saw, a lot of flowers, happy villagers, a perfect and happy city. That is, until he noticed the glares Anko was getting, and by extension, him. He was upset by this, thinking how could a village that prizes teamwork and the will of fire above all things have such hate for one of their own? As they continued to make their way through the village, Cole stopped Anko and asked, Do you know anywhere that I can sell weapons? That won't treat you like you don't belong. I don't want to give any of them the time of day. Cole asked. This happened to make Anko blush a bit and she stammered, Why yeah, Jay, just follow me. Cole got a slight chuckle out of seeing Anko acting shy like this. He guessed that she didn't expect him to catch on that she was uncomfortable with walking through the center of town. They arrived at a small ninja tool shop and entered. Hey Tanzo! I brought a new customer for you. Anko chipped. They heard some clattering in the back room and a very large man with extremely muscular arms holding a toddler in his came out and behind the counter. Anko! Long time no see, lass. How have you been? He asked in a jovial and deep voice. Ah, you know, same old same old. I made a new friend. Here, this is Oracle, she introduced Cole to the large man. Nice to meet you, Oracle-san. I'm Tanzo and this little ball of trouble is Tintin. The giant said in a happy tone as he poked his daughter in the cheek. Likewise Tanzo-san, and you too, little Tintin. Cole replied. So, Anko-chan says you're a new customer. You here to buy it or appraise something? He asked, getting down to business. I came to sell, and to also make a deal. Here, hold on a moment, Cole said as he opened the long bag he had been carrying. He produced a solid black katana that seemed to glow slightly. Well, what do we have here? Tanzo whispered as he set Tintin down to go play with Anko. What kind of metal is this? It looks like it was made by a master smith. Tell me, is the blade enhanced with chakra iron? Tanzo asked in rapid fire. Hee hee, well the blade is made from pure chakra iron, not just enhanced. And the maker of the blade would be myself. Tanzo looked up at him and said, the best I can offer you is 30,000 Rio. Any more and I'd risk going bankrupt. Cole liked the offer but decided to make his own. How about you do 20,000 Rio and you make me a sheath for Teki no Hocho here? He said as he brandished his cleaver. I'd also like to make you a deal, he continued. I can give you a large supply of these blades and variants of the blade and we split the profit 60:40. Sound good to you? Tanzo didn't need to think twice. Done. They shook hands and Tanzo gave him his money. If you would let me hold onto your slab of iron there for the next couple of days, I can make your sheath. Cole hefted his blade up and placed it on the counter. All right, but not a scratch, okay? He said with sarcasm thick in his voice. Tanzo laughed and said, of course, but if I may, where did you get the iron or the skill to make weapons like these? They could probably rival the blades of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Secret Cole taunted the blacksmith. But if you must know, I have a lot of skill in both making blades and using them. Tanzo laughed and said, I don't doubt that. Then he tried to remove Teki no Hocho but found it took even him a considerable amount of effort to lift the blade. Geez kid, how can you even use this? A lot easier than you think. Cole chuckled and made his way out of the shop and had Anko follow as she said her goodbyes to little Tintin. Don't tell anyone, but that little Tintin will be a very powerful weapons master one day, Cole said to Anko. Anko looked at him and said, I don't doubt it, if she's anything like her dad she'll grow to be a weapon fanatic. Also, when did you make that sword? I didn't see you bring it. Cole let loose a little giggle and said, I made it as I reached into my bag. Ashura path is great, isn't it? Anko laughed and they continued to the tower. And that is my report, Hokage-sama. Cole said as he finished telling Hiruzen what had transpired in the forest. This is unsettling. Hiruzen said. I told Danzo to put an end to his little root program years ago. The traitorous bastard needs to be punished. Not only did he go against my orders, but one of his agents attacked a Konoha nin. This will not go without repercussion. Hiruzen fumed. He called to his secretary to have Danzo brought to his office as soon as possible. About half an hour later the grizzled warhawk entered Hiruzen's office. A brief emotion that seemed like rage appeared on his face when he saw Oracle, but he was quick to hide it. Not that hiding his emotions would help him in his current situation. Danzo! Hiruzen yelled. You have gone against my orders for the last time. I told you years ago to extinguish all traces of root, and what do? You go behind your Hokage's back and even get to the point of having a civilian and a kunoichi of Konoha attacked. How can you explain yourself? Hiruzen said, enraged by the actions of one of his former war brothers. Danzo merely looked at Hiruzen and said in a completely calm tone, I don't understand, Hokage-sama. What do you mean? He was cut off when Cole snarled, Kinned bastard. I already removed the seals on the corpses of your agents and their bodies have been sent to the Intel Division. Danzo didn't bother hiding his rage at this point. He tried to pull free the hidden sword from his cane but stopped when he felt cold steel pressed to his neck. He was instantly surrounded by Umbu Black Op agents. Danzo, Hiruzen started. For knowingly going against the orders of your Hokage and having one of your fellow Konoha nin attacked, your punishment will not be a slap on the wrist this time. Oh, and what will you do, Hiruzen? You were always too soft to be Hokage. You didn't have the guts to make the hard decisions. What will you do? He was cut off again by Cole. But instead of using words to stop Danzo, he merely plunged a chakra receiver rod into his heart. All Danzo could do was cough blood as he looked wide-eyed at Cole. Danzo, for putting my mission in danger, as per my right, I sentence you to immediate death. Cole said with ice in his voice. Danzo just stared into Cole's barely visible eyes. He just stared as he slowly died, standing and unwilling to move. Chapter 6, Uzumaki. Danzo just stared into Cole's barely visible eyes. He just stared as he slowly died, standing and unwilling to move. Oracle, what have you done? Hiruzen asked, completely shocked by Cole's actions. Cole released his hold on his killing tool. He gave a brief shudder and looked to the elderly man. I invoke my portion of our deal. You said that anyone who would try to stop my mission would be either punished by you or myself. What I have done is end the life of a traitor and a dark man. That is all I have done, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen looked to his former friend. He still stood there, his one showing eye half closed and lifeless. Someone take his body out of here and prepare a funeral service for him. Not matter what he was planning, he used to be a loyal Konoha nin and a hero of the Second Shinobi War. Hiruzen called to the Umbu in the room. He slumped into his desk chair and rubbed the bridge of his nose. He let out a sigh and looked to Cole. You are excused, Oracle-san. I would like to hear from you further on some other matters, but not right now. I'll see you tomorrow. Yes, Hokage-sama. Cole said before he opened the door. As he opened the door, he noticed Anko and the secretary having a glare off. His mood perked up slightly when he saw Anko. Hey, he called to her as he closed the door behind him. Why don't I make do on that promise about Dangdo? He asked. Right as he said that, she stopped glaring at the secretary to beam at him with a childlike smile. Hell ya Dangdo, cheered. As she began to skip out of the building, he had a thought that nearly brought a tear to his eye. Welp, I'm not gonna be holding on to the money I got from Tanzo anymore, I guess. Hokage-sama, Umbu said as he knelt before Hiruzen. Said Umbu was wearing the basic Umbu uniform minus the cloak. He was Aloes, wearing a dog mask and had a tanto strapped to his right shoulder. I've come to report on the battle between Oracle-san and the root agents, one Hatake Kakashi said as he removed his dog mask. Thank you, Kakashi, Hiruzen replied. What did you find out? Kakashi stood up and began to retell the battle between Oracle and the 4 root members. He was toying with them. It was almost scary how effective his Rinnegan was in combat. I didn't stay to see the aftermath. I didn't want to get caught when he pulled his focus from his victims. Kakashi finished in his usual calm and cool tone. The Hokage thought the new information over a bit. It would make sense that he would be powerful if he had the Rinnegan. Be you that powerful? He was happy that he didn't have him as an enemy. Even the shinobi professor might have difficulties handling him in a fight if he could take down 4 of Danzo's elites without taking damage. Thank you, Kakashi, Hiruzen said as he broke his train of thought. I'd like you to keep an eye on him. As long as he is in this village, we need to be wary of what he might do. Yes, Hokage-sama. Kakashi replied. Would you like me to stay in the shadows, or would you rather have me get to know him? Hiruzen thought this over. He knew Kakashi had fallen into a deep depression since Minato died. So far, Kakashi has lost everyone he has ever cared for. First his father, then his teammates, and now just a few months ago his sensei. This could be a good opportunity for Kakashi to get back out into the village and become accustomed to an easier life. Alright, Kakashi, I want you to do what you can. I need you to be close to him. Learn his motives, find out his plans, make sure he stays in line. But please try to enjoy your time back in the village as a normal jonin. Yes, Hokage-sama. Kakashi said before he left the tower. Kakashi stood before the memorial stone. He stared at it in his own little world. The only words he thought were, I'm sorry. His regret of what happened to Rin haunted him. Obito's death cursed his dreams. And the loss of Minato and Kushina crushed his soul. But he still had a duty to withhold. He was a Konoha nin and he wouldn't dare disgrace those who left him early by being second-rate or not trying. Kakashi sighed one last time and steeled himself to face his new mission. Cole noticed how his large stash of cash started to drain away as he feebly tried to sate Anko's hunger for Dangdo. They both walked into the small stand and were instantly greeted by a middle-aged woman and a warm smile. Since Anko was the woman's main source of income, she held no hate for the young kunoichi. The woman was slightly offset when she appeared with a very tall male, but decided to not dwell on it with a small chuckle as she prepared Anko's feast. As they ate, Cole removed his mask but kept his eyes hidden behind a blindfold. This bothered him though because he could see people's chakra through the rag. Things were pretty quiet in the little shop until a red-eyed kunoichi entered the place and completely froze. She looked at Anko and then to Cole and back to Anko. God. Anko, not fair. Ecstatic Kurenai. How did you get a boyfriend before me? This statement made Anko begin to choke and cough a little while Cole burst out laughing at Anko's reaction. He isn't my boyfriend. Kurenai just raised an eyebrow and gave a smirk and playfully said, Oh, really? Then why is he treating you of all people to Dango? You could make the poor guy go bankrupt. Anko just blushed harder than an embarrassed Hinata. Cole chose this moment to enter the conversation. So Anko-chan, why don't you introduce me to your friend here? Anko broke out of her stupor and cleared her throat. Sorry, Oracle, this is my friend Kurenai. Kurenai, this is Oracle. That's best friend. Kurenai chirped as she hugged Anko from the side. So if you don't mind me asking, are you blind? She asked Cole, who was still wearing his blindfold. No, I just have very weird eyes, Cole said and hoped she would just drop the subject. Anyway, I have somewhere to be. I'll see you later, Anko-chan. And it was nice meeting you, Kurenai-san. With that, Cole left the shop but left enough money to cover the tab they ran up. Anko pouted a little and looked at Kurenai. Great, you ran off my meal ticket. Kurenai just laughed and ordered her own food. Cole didn't really need to be anywhere, but he wanted to avoid all discussion about his eyes if possible. He could also feel the situation becoming awkward fast and decided to make a strategic retreat. He decided to take a stroll through the village. When he looked up at the Hokage monument, he broke into a cold sweat when he noticed something he had yet to do. I haven't gone to see Naruto at all since I got here. I am such a fucking idiot. Cole dashed from rooftop to rooftop heading to the Kyuubi's chakra signature. When Cole arrived at his destination, Naruto was in the attic of the building in an old and damaged crib. Naruto was crying and no one seemed to be coming anytime soon. Cole entered through the window and looked at the poor hero. He picked up the small underfed Jinchuriki. Hush, child, shoo, Cole cooed to the infant. I'm so sorry I didn't arrive sooner. Cole continued to rock the child in his arms until he stopped crying and looked up at Cole. He removed his mask to let Naruto see his face. When Naruto smiled and reached up to his face, Cole let a sad smile come across his face. He set the boy back into his crib and said, I'll be right back. He leaped out of the window and arrived with a bottle of milk a few moments later. Naruto was crying again when he came back, but stopped when he saw Cole. Cole picked the boy back up and started to feed the Jinchuriki. Cole smiled at the child and said to himself, how could anyone treat such an innocent child like this? Who the hell are you? Asked a voice from the door of the room. Cole turned and glared at the woman. Someone who is caring for an ignored child. The real question is, who do you think you are to let a child be like this? Cole said furiously and releasing a wave of focused killing intent out on the poor civilian. Naruto stopped drinking his milk and grabbed onto Cole's kimono and buried his face in his chest. Cole immediately calmed down and cooed to the frightened child, sorry little one, I was just angry at the mean woman there. He held Naruto a little tighter and looked back at the frightened woman. She began to freak out and yelled at him, you must be in league with that damn demon, is it calling to you? Do you even know what you're holding? That's a fucking dim dash. She was cut off when Cole grabbed her forcefully by the neck. This is a child. Not the demon, but its jailer. This poor boy is a hero for you damn fools, and you refuse to look past what he keeps from killing you all. Cole snarled as he felt the woman pass out in his grip. He let her fall to the floor, not caring for what happens to her. He looked down to see Naruto's startlingly blue eyes fixed on his face. Cole smiled and said, don't worry, little one. Oracle Nezen is gonna get you out of here. He turned towards the window and left the building with Naruto in his arms and his mask over his face. As Cole leaped from roof to roof with a giggling Naruto in his arms, he was forced to come to a stop. A 14-year-old Kakashi was blocking his path with his tanto drawn and looking into Cole's hidden eyes. "Where are you taking the kid, Oracle-san?" Cole looked into his eyes and said coolly, "To Hokage-sama, Hataki Kakashi-san." Kakashi was surprised for a bit, and Cole caught this and said, "Yes, I know your name. I also know you've been following me since I left the Hokage Tower this morning. I also know what ails you, and I also know you were able of overcoming it." Kakashi glared at him for a moment but lightened his look as he saw Naruto bury his face back into Cole's chest, taking worried glances at Kakashi. Kakashi sighed and said, "Fine, let me come with you then." The two made their way to the tower in silence, and when they arrived, Hiruzen was surprised to see Naruto in Cole's arms. Without trying to scream his head off. The few times Hiruzen got to see the boy, the poor child was always crying and terrified of everyone that came near him. Now he only seemed slightly startled by all the people in the room other than Oracle, whom he had a death grip on his kimono and would hide his face every now and then in the man's chest. "Hokage-sama," Cole asked as he removed his mask. "I have a favor to ask of you." Hiruzen waited a few seconds before noting to hear him out. "I would like you to make me a citizen and allow me to adopt Naruto here." Hiruzen pondered this for a moment and asked, "Why do you need to adopt him? He was doing perfectly fine in the orphanage based on the reports I was getting." Hiruzen and Kakashi felt the room drop in temperature. Cole glared at the Hokage and said, "Well then, how about the fact I don't trust those imbeciles to take care of a pet fish, let alone a child? And I also happen to be the only person the child trusts." He finished by releasing them from his killing intent and looked warmly down to Naruto, who went good in response. The Hokage continued to think and stole a glance at Kakashi and saw and shrugged his shoulders. He let out a sigh and said, "Very well then. Oracle-san, I name you a citizen of Konohagakure. I also name you legal guardian of Uzumaki Naruto, as well as the new head of the Uzumaki clan." Chapter 7, Family. The Hokage continued to think and stole a glance at Kakashi and saw and shrugged his shoulders. He let out a sigh and said, "Very well then. Oracle-san, I name you a citizen of Konohagakure. I also name you legal guardian of Uzumaki Naruto, as well as the new head of the Uzumaki clan." "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hold up," Cole said to the elderly Hokage. "I just wanted to adopt Naruto, not become the next head of his clan." Hiruzen looked at him with a stoic look. "I know," he said. "But this is my one condition for your favor. I need someone on the council who doesn't have a secondary agenda. Someone who doesn't owe anyone anything and can't be bribed. Someone whom I can trust. You should know that I can't trust a lot of my own men. After Danzo's betrayal, I need someone to replace him." Cole thought this over. With the chance to be at the center of Konoha's decisions and able to get to know and influence the major clans could help him greatly in trying to make the changes he has planned. It would also let him keep an eye on the Uchiha and Hyuga clans. "Alright, I can see the logic in a move like this," Cole started. "But I don't want my real reasoning for being here to be found out. I'll need cover." "Well, what do you have in mind?" the Hokage asked. "I'll need a name and a reason for being here. I could say I'm a survivor from Yuzu and claim that I just wanted to adopt a fellow clansman," Cole contemplated. "But what name should I use? It has to be a believable name." Kakashi, who had been silent till this moment, proposed a name. "How about Seinaru?" The two looked at him. "It means holy. I figured since you are the only Rinnegan user in the history of Konoha and that the powers it gave you are otherworldly that it fit." Kakashi finished by mumbling something about him and his big mouth. Cole thought for a moment. After a few seconds, a wide grin spread across his face. "I like it. Alright then, Seinaru-san, I will have a file made about you later. But there is one last thing. We can't let you wear your mask in the council room," Hiruzen said. An annoyed expression came across Cole's face for a brief moment before he let out a brief sigh. "Alright then, I guess it was going to come out sooner or later. This will mean I will also have to explain how I have the Rinnegan." Cole trailed off as he began to think. After a brief moment he shouted, "AHA, How could I forget? The Uzumaki clan has the potential to unlock the Rinnegan if they add their already existing Senju DNA with Uchiha DNA. Cole paused for a moment. Shit, I said that out loud, didn't I? He looked at a wide-eyed Hiruzen and a halfway intrigued Kakashi. Cole instantly got serious and said, my little slip-up doesn't get out to anyone. What you heard here is now a S-class secret, understand? Cole finished by letting out a small spike of killing intent. Why yes, I'll have to agree with you, Seinaru-san. Hiruzen agreed as he coughed a little into his hat. Kakashi was slightly surprised to see the usually calm and collected Oracle lose himself for a second. He quickly got over his surprise when he felt the room drop in temperature from Cole's anger with himself. Hiruzen cleared his throat and quickly changed the subject. Now, for the matter of your living arrangements. I would have you put into the Uzumaki estate, however after the Kyuubi's attack it has fallen into disrepair. Cole decided to propose his opinion on the subject. Hokage-sama, would it be possible to use the Namake's estate? Hiruzen looked at him, a little agitated by the fact that he would propose to have the house of the late Yondaime Hokage. I mean, it is the last place of residence of the Uzumaki, and there are things that Naruto is entitled to in the estate, Cole finished. At the mention of his name, Naruto looked at Cole's eyes and then to Hiruzen. Hiruzen thought for a few seconds, but with those bright and innocent eyes of the child on him he had a hard time finding anything to go against putting him in the estate. He eventually let out a tired sigh. Fine, you will be placed in the Namake's estate. Cole nodded to the Hokage and said, then I guess my business is done here. I will see you tomorrow, Hokage-sama. With that Cole rose from his seat and he and his new son left the tower heading towards the estate. Once the new father and son duo made it to the estate, Cole entered the front gate and into the manor. Once inside he let out a sigh of utter relief. Oh Naru-chan, if I have to go through all that just to get something I want, you might be more trouble than you're worth. Naruto looked up at him with a slightly worried look on his face, like he knew exactly what he said. I'm kidding. Geez, those puppy dog eyes will be dangerous when you get older, he said as he nudged the infant's cheek, gaining a giggle out of the child. Hee, well Naru-chan. This is home. The home you should have always had. Next thing is to get you older so you can be a ninja, huh? Naruto just gave out a tired yawn and nestled against Cole. Looks like someone's tired. I guess I'll have to find us a room for a nap. Cammy knows I need one too. Cole went through the rooms and found the master bedroom. He lay down on the bed with Naruto already asleep on his chest. He looked to the child and mumbled to himself, never thought I'd be a father at 15. With that he slowly drifted off to sleep. He didn't sleep long, however. He was forced awake when he found himself in a dark and damp sewer. He rose from his laying position and found himself face to face with a both furious and confused Kyuubi no Kitsune. Human! Why do you smell like Hagoromo Gigi? Kurama commanded Cole. Cole looked at the fearsome demon and just chuckled. Well, it's good to finally meet you, Kurama-chan. Rah! Kurama didn't take to kindly of someone being that casual with himself. He clawed at his cage and snarled at Cole. Don't you dare speak that way to me, human trash. Now! Answer my question. Cole just let out a sigh and looked into Kurama's eyes. Kurama, look at my eyes, feel my chakra. Your father brought me to this world. He gave me his power. He wanted me to raise your current vessel so that this world will know peace. I ask you this now. Will you forego your hatred for humans and work with me? Kurama just snarled even louder than before and yelled in complete anger, you humans mean nothing to me. Let me out of this cage so I can show you how much I care for your so-called peace. I am hatred. I am the Kyuubi no Yoko and I will kill you one day, human. Now, get out of my sight. With those words Cole was ejected from Naruto's mindscape and back into sleep. When Cole woke up he saw little blue eyes looking at him. Your tenant's a little rude, you know that, but he'll come around. Cole decided to swaddle Naruto in his kimono and got back into the Namake's vault of scrolls. When Cole got down there Naruto gave out a light sneeze. Yeah, It's a bit dusty down here, little guy. He looked around the shelves and different tables that were filled to the brim with scrolls and weapons. Cole finally found what he was looking for. The Fuinjutsu section. And what he found surprised him. Cole looked and found 13 shelves overflowing onto some sables. All with just Fuinjutsu scrolls and basics. Well, little Naruto-chan, looks like we have a lot of reading ahead of us, huh? Cole said as he looked down at the child. Naruto looked at him and tugged his shirt and looked at him. Must be hungry, huh? Well, just let me grab a scroll and we can get some dinner. Cole grabbed a scroll on simple sealing and storage seals and went back up to the kitchen. Cole looked around and found that all the formula and milk had gone bad. Well, Naruto-chan, looks like you're gonna have to wait till we go shopping. Naruto pouted at his new father but just buried his face in his chest. You are a clingy little guy, huh? Cole said as he gave Naruto a little hug. He took some money with him and the scroll and went out to restock the kitchen and baby supplies. Anko was going through her weekly shopping routine when she spotted a familiar figure walk out of a store. Hey! Oracle, she said as she hurried to her friend. Hey, what's up with you? Just up and dash. She stopped when she saw the nervous infant trying to bury himself in Oracle's kimono. What's with the kid? She stammered. Well. As of today, he's my son. Say hello, little Naruto-chan. Anko-chan isn't that bad once you get to know her, Cole said as the shy child just huddled closer to Cole. He sighed and said, I'm gonna have to get you out of this little shell of yours. Anko looked at him, still gaping that a kid only a couple years older than her had adopted a child. Why did you adopt some brat? You're only a dash. Then it dawned on her. No way is the dash. She was cut off and blushed a deep red when Oracle put his head over her mouth. Before you go saying anything you're not supposed, yes, he is. Cole looked at her and she nodded and he let his hand come back to support Naruto. And by the way, it's not Oracle anymore. My new name is Uzumaki Seinaru. And that's Seinaru-sama to you since I'm on the council and a clan head. Anko just looked at him without any emotion showing on her face. Yeah, the whole Sama thing ain't gonna cut it. Cole let out a laugh and when he sobered he asked, would you like to join me and Naruto-chan for dinner? Anko burst into a blush that could only be rivaled by the queen of blushing, Hinata, and stammered, sure, Seinaru. Cole chuckled at her reaction and led her to the Namikaze estate. Holy crap! You live here? Anko asked when they got to the Namikaze estate. Yeah, Cole responded. I have the old man give us the house little Naruto's mom lived in. He showed her in and went into the kitchen and made Naruto a bottle. Hey, could you feed Naruto while I make dinner? Anko hesitantly took the child who began to whimper a little. Sure. She took the bottle and began to feed the small child. After a few tries to get in to eat, Naruto finally gave up resisting and ate. While Cole started to cook, Anko just looked at the boy in her arms. Her usually defiant and angry eyes softened at the innocence of the child. Naruto felt the lightening of her mood and began to drink the milk a little faster and became a little less afraid. Looks like he's taken a liking to you, Cole said as he put their plates on the table. About 40 minutes the food was ready and Naruto was still quietly laying in Anko's arms. He was looking at her eyes in pure wonder. He does seem to look at people in the eye a lot, Cole thought to himself. Must be how he learned to trust someone or not. His thoughts were confirmed when Naruto willingly gripped Anko's jacket and nestled into Anko. This earned a eep from the poor girl and Cole chuckled a bit. See, he just needed to get to know you. He gets really clingy with people he trusts. Cole looked at her with a warm smile and Anko let loose a furious blush. She began to eat and said, Holy crap, this is good. What is it? Cole looked up from his plate and put a hand behind his head and said, Well, I used to like to cook a lot. This is a teriyaki steak with stir-fried greens. That is a thick chicken and potato soup. I also have a maple and honey dipping sauce that I made that can be used on the biscuits. Anko looked at him and blushed slightly. This is sort of backwards, she mumbled under her breath. Close said. And nothing, Anko hurriedly replied. It's just I'm not much of a cook. I usually just get pre-cooked food or go to the dango shop for food. So this sort of really good homemade food is just really nice. A light blush came across Cole's face at the compliments. Hee, thanks for the compliment, Anko-chan. And no problem, she said shakily. Their meal continued in silence until they finished. Well, it's late and I have a mission tomorrow, so I guess I should be off, Anko said. Yeah, Cole replied and took Naruto back into his arms and began to lead her out. I'll see you around, you know. And don't be a stranger, you are always welcome back for dinner. Cole finished with a smile. Anko blushed furiously, nodded and left. Cole closed the door behind her and looked down to Naruto. You think she likes me? Naruto looked up at him and yawned. Yeah, me too. After changing Naruto's diaper and getting the child into some pajamas he found in the nursery, Cole changed into some of Minato's old night gear and sat in the master bed with Naruto. As Naruto fell asleep, Cole was reading on his Fuinjutsu scroll. At about 11 he decided to turn in and lay down. He looked at Naruto, who somehow found his way on top of Cole's chest. So this is what it feels like to be a parent, he said to himself. I could get used to this. Cole quickly into sleep. That's the end of this tale for now. Like and subscribe for part 2 and comment below your thoughts. And with that being said, till next time, peace.